When I first came across this on X, the first thing that came to my mind was this is some of the most brain dead shit I have ever seen, and I've come across quite a bit of shit that I could consider to be brain dead. But this one right here takes the cake. So apparently the Democrats have decided that they are going to take their level of deflecting from the issues that Black Americans are facing and said, we're going to double down, triple down, quadruple down, like continue doubling, that continue the spiral of degradation. And we're going to come up with something called the Hip Hop Task Force. And if y'all don't know who that is standing at the podium, that is none other than Jamal Bowman. That man has been shifty and shady and has been worthy of getting the side eye from every Black American ever since he opened up his mouth to say, hello, my name is Jamal Bowman. I'm sitting here saying to myself, this is some BS personified. And then to do it in Black History Month at that. No shame whatsoever. But when you find out what this so-called task force is supposed to do, you're going to sit here and say, what does this have to do with hip hop? And two, how is that going to affect or help Black people in any way? A coalition of Democrats are looking to use the power of music to tackle some of the most pressing issues facing Black and and brown Americans. Literally in the first paragraph, after seeing this imagery that you see on your screen right now, and I give my little introduction, they had to shoehorn brown in there. They always do it. What does this have to do with them? They do it every single time. And whenever they do the brown thing, they always make sure that brown gets more than Black. Representative Jamal Bowman out of New York on Wednesday unveiled the Congressional Hip Hop Power and Justice Task Force outside the Capitol. The task force, led by Bowman, will use hip hop's messaging of building a more equitable society to help spearhead initiatives to help address economic equality, affordable housing, and racial justice imperatives. This is right up the Democratic playbook. All through it, every page. Why am I not surprised by this? This is exactly why I am a registered independent, because neither side has Black people's best interests at heart. I and several others in the new Black media have given you examples after example after example of how both sides love to play in our face like we're amateurs, like we're children, like we don't know what we're talking about. Someone actually, I had reposted this on my X account, and somebody had asked, why are they doing this? I said, because they think we are politically dumb. I mean, what other reason could there be? They think we are politically dumb. They are no different than those on the quote unquote right. Y'all seen the videos that I've done discussing them and how they feel about us. The Democrats, they're no different. This is the wording, how they do it or how they go about it is different. Theirs is more calm, whereas the Republicans or the conservatives, they're more aggressive. But their messaging, while different, is nothing different than the other. They're all the same. Again, two wings, same buzzard. In an exclusive with The Hill, Bowman explained that the inspiration behind the task force came from reflecting on how the genre impacted him over the years. Artists like Eric B. and Rakim, Queen Latifah, Chuck D, and Public Enemy inspired the New York lawmaker throughout his life, he said, including during his time as an educator. They were very instrumental in creating a curriculum and blueprint for my life, Bowman told The Hill. I owe a lot of who I am to the lessons that taught me on and through their music. But keep this in mind. Those are Black hip hop artists. Why was you incorporating quote unquote brown in there? That right there, if you wanted this to go anywhere, not that I don't think it will, but if you wanted to, that dilutes the whole message. And watch what I'm about to read, because it's about to get diluted again. Hip hop, which celebrated its 50th anniversary last August, has often been used as a political tool for black and brown Americans. That's the second time he said that. I cannot take this seriously. I mean, I already couldn't take it seriously, but now I really can't. And Bowman said he hopes to capitalize on that through the task force. Hip hop has always been about ending poverty in America, about fully funding our public schools. It's always been about justice reform and police reform, the lawmaker said. It's always been about affordable housing and dealing with the issues of threats of violence. At this moment in particular, when you consider the Black Lives Matter movement to the ceasefire movement and the fight that continues for freedom, justice, and equality, now it's time to build political power at a level that's never been done before. Well, guess what, Jamal? You are off to the wrong foot. I'm trying to figure out how this is going to work. I don't even think he knows how this is going to work. And honestly, I don't even believe that he thinks that people are going to run behind this except for the people who are shills like he is. It's going to be one big echo chamber, one that we will not be a part of. I will gladly not be a part of this. And you want to know another reason why Jamal Bowman is doing something like this instead of what we demand, such as tangibles, is because going for tangibles is hard. It takes work. Him doing this so-called hip hop task force, whatever this is, that's nothing. That's easy work for him. And by the way, I didn't pick up on it again until just now. Notice the color scheme of this podium. Black, green, and yellow. Whose colors are those? That's Jamaicans. That's the Jamaican flag color scheme. I just thought I should put that out there. I just thought that was very interesting that that's the color scheme that he went with. Some of that is already happening. In September, artists including Fat Joe, Rick Ross, and Busta Rhymes, 2 of 3 who are not FBA, one of them is an imposter, partner with Power to the Patients to film a public service announcement demanding legislators create a more honest, affordable, and equitable healthcare system. Groups like the Black Music Action Coalition, the Recording Academy, and the Black Music Collective have also joined forces with Bowman and Representative Hank Johnson in calling for the passage of the Restoring Artistic Protection Act, a bill that will limit the admissibility of an artist's creative or artistic expression against them in court. Not to shift gears, but how is that so-called hip-hop museum that Mayor Eric Adams, aka the Biden of Brooklyn, how is that coming along? I haven't heard anything about that in about maybe 2 years. I guess he has his hands wrapped up with the South of the Bordarians to finish that project. And every year, Hip Hop on the Hill brings artists and legislators together through the Hip Hop Caucus. Hold on, did anyone know there was a Hip Hop Caucus? Maybe I'm out the loop, because I didn't know there was a Hip Hop Caucus. Man, the jokes just write themselves. It's been going on in terms of rappers and artists and industry interfacing with elected officials on a consistent basis. We just want to take that up a notch and make it more consistent, make us more intentional, and use the power of the genre as a multi-billion-dollar global economy to move lawmakers in terms of helping them to understand what's happening in our most marginalized communities, said Bowman. Part of that, he added, means conducting Hip Hop on the Hill once a month rather than once a year. We want artists to constantly be talking to lawmakers about what they're going through in their communities and what's happening in their communities, so lawmakers can understand that hip hop artists come from the most marginalized, neglected places in our country. You want to know what's so interesting? If you look up who the biggest consumers of hip hop is, it's not even black people. I've said this several times ever since I first learned about who it is. It's white males, particularly white teen males. If anything, this right here would cater more to them than to us. Or maybe that's what Jamal Bowman's plan is all along, is to cater to them, while pretending that it's pandering, because it's not really catering, pandering to us. Remember, it's an election year. They're going to pull out all the stops, as many as possible, and they're not going to stop at all. They're like a runaway train all the way to November 5th. And then when they get to November 5th and they feel like they've gotten what they've wanted, then they go back to square one, which means they don't want nothing to do with black people. And if they don't get what they want, then they'll continue to shun and speak ill of black people and insult black people. It's literally a wash, rinse, repeat. We've seen it so many times. Eminem Now look who they brought up. Eminem, whose full name is Marshall Mathers, grew up in poverty in a trailer park, a story that many Americans relate to, Bowman said, and lawmakers need to hear that reality. Look what he just did. So you're supposed to be, quote unquote, bringing together the black and brown, and it just irks me to even say that, but for contextual purposes, I'll bring it up here. But you want to bring up Eminem, a white rapper, a white man. Now notice in the little paragraph that I just read about him, the little excerpt, they didn't mention his race. They just said Eminem, whose full name is Marshall Mathers, grew up in poverty in a trailer park, so on and so forth. They didn't say Eminem, a white man, as if we don't know that he's PC. But Bowman also points to how legitimizing hip-hop can lead to widespread cultural change. One way, he said, is by addressing misogyny both in the genre and in public discourse. So now he's heading into the intersectional feminism route the minute he said that. This thing is a joke, and so is he. The lawmaker points to the story of Megan Thee Stallion, who faced vitriol and hate after filing assault charges against rapper Tory Lanez after he shot her. Okay, now people, I think now we are getting to the meat and potatoes of this so-called task force. Again, I keep telling you, let them talk long enough and they will reveal to you what this so-called whatever it is that they're trying to push is really about. Everything that I read prior to mentioning Eminem's name means nothing. Everything that I mentioned from his name down, especially this part about Megan Thee Stallion and Tory Lanez, this is what it's about. This is what this so-called hip-hop task force is about. Not that BS and mumbo jumbo that I mentioned in the first maybe 5 minutes of this video. She persevered, she fought, she told the truth, and she won, said Bowman, and that's what we need to know about. Uplifting women in hip-hop is a core component of the task force, in part because black women have been instrumental in the fight for equality and justice. Again, he's going into the intersectional crowd, the feminist crowd, and then him constantly bringing up black women in this really pandering way. Now he's pandering again. Umar would be proud. I could see him getting behind it just on that part that he mentioned right there. That's part of the reason why he unveiled the task force on Wednesday, the anniversary of his mother's death. Bowman, who grew up in a single mother household, said his mother used to listen and enjoy hip hop with him as he grew up. Not to be disrespectful, but now I see why he is the way that he is. No disrespect though. I'm very lucky because I was raised in the culture, the time when the culture was not as misogynistic and violent. And when I say the way he is, I mean that he didn't have, to me, it sounds like he did not have a male figure around him. Apparently he didn't grow up with his father, but he didn't have a male figure there either. So there's that. To introduce the task force on the day of her passing, he added, is to give honor and to pay homage to her as a single black mom in America, and to pay homage to all the single black mothers in America and all the women out there loving their sons and doing the best they can for their children and their families. Again, everything I mentioned after Eminem is what this bill or this task force is really about. It has nothing to do with whatever bullshit he said in the beginning. That is void, null and void. This part right here is why he's pushing this. It really screams anti-black man, and this is a black man that's pushing it. Let that sink in. But the timing of the task force also aligns with Black History Month and an election year, something that the New York Democrats said was intentional. Well, no kidding, Jamal Bowman. We kind of figured that before you even said it. Artists have held the establishment accountable for many years, and during election years, many artists, many people in the community and culture continue to not trust as it relates to what we're doing on the Hill. The result is less voter turnout and overall less interaction between legislators and the community. The task force can begin to rebuild that trust. It won't. It's going to further push it away. If I was a registered Democrat, this wouldn't even make me want to even wake up on election day to vote. I would just stay in bed and try to sleep all the way from, just go to sleep on the 4th and wake up on the 6th. And urge voters of color So we went from black and brown to voters of color. I'm telling you, this just reads like it was written by the intersectional crowd. To trust the process and cast their ballots come November. Election season is critical to build authentic relationships, and none of them are authentic or relationships, if you ask me. In terms of what the needs are, what the challenges are, what the struggles are, and what the aspirations are. In addition to Bowman, the task force will be led by Democratic reps Hank Johnson, Delia Ramirez, and Andre Carson. No Republicans are part of this task force. Well, you know what? If I was a Republican, I would just laugh at this, not because it's quote unquote a hip hop task force, but because it's a joke. And as a registered independent, I'm calling it a joke because that's exactly what this is. This is nothing. And if black people fall for this, then you are a bigger fool than I give you credit for. You are a bigger idiot than this guy is. What does this do for black people? Nothing. I just read to you what this bill is about, and it has nothing to do with what he's pushing it out there as. Now, if people only read at face value, which unfortunately way too many of the American population tend to do nowadays due to short attention spans, they would only go off of what I read in the first part of this article from The Hill. They would stop before I got to the main course of this hip hop task force. He titled it Hip Hop Task Force because he knew it would draw eyes, especially from black people. But that's it. He just wants people to draw eyes. He probably doesn't even expect people to even read into what this thing is about, like I just did. But you have to really read and comprehend what it is he's saying. That was very easy for me to comprehend, to know that this is a nothing burger. This right here to me is a grandstanding thing that he's doing, a pet project to make himself look good in the eyes of his constituents, to say, hey, I did something. It wasn't for black people, but if the way I framed it, it looks like it is, but it's really not. Again, who is this for? This is not for black people. It's not. At least not those who are of sound mind and can think for themselves and don't have a battery in their back like Jamal Bowman and those around him. I think the thing that pisses me off the most about this thing is that it's an insult to my intelligence, and y'all know that is one of my main pet peeves, and I think I only have two. But that one right there, insulting my intelligence, is a surefire way for me to cuss you out. Like, really, this means nothing. This is nothing. All I can say is that to black people, do not fall for the banana in the tailpipe.